There's no hiding that I'm wearing sweatpants.
It's okay. You look great.
It's fine.
It is fun.
Hello, welcome.
Wait, start over. I was cracking my neck.
Today I have my friend Faith here. We did a video a long time ago.
A
long time ago. So I have Faith with me. Faith.
It is. Bugs. There's bugs here. And snakes. And vampire tarantula thingies. Really
These
spider as big as my hand that I found while I was cleaning.
Y'all saw that spider in the pool? I'm gonna insert a picture right there of that spider. Yeah. You see that? That's real.
Go.
It was
So long ago.
Oh gosh. So as I'm like planning videos and thinking about like videos I want to create and make and talk about, one of the things that I personally have struggled with is comparison, like a long time, and still growing in that. And we've talked about it before and stuff, so I was like, well, let's just talk about it. Let's just talk about some ideas on how to combat that and some things that, yeah, like we've learned and grown in.
We've both grown a lot.
We have.
A lot. Being obedient to whatever God is asking you to do. Like what part, if the tree is God's kingdom, what part of the tree is God asking you to tend right now? And then like doing your best at that and not looking at like somebody else's part, not worrying about the part that they're supposed to be tending. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's really good. I needed to hear that, because like if I'm just tending the part of stop. Now I get nervous. Am I supposed to look at the camera or not?
Man, just keep going.
Oh my gosh. Okay. If I'm tending the part of God's tree or God's kingdom that He's asked me to, and I'm just worried about that, and I'm being obedient to that, then like what am I supposed to compare to? He's called other people to other parts. Like I can't compare it to anything because they're all different things. If you're supposed to like take care of the roots or the trunk or the leaves or different stuff like that, it's just not gonna be the same thing, and it's not gonna look the same way as other people. And so it was just like, is what I'm doing enough compared to what other people are doing? But if what I'm doing is what God said to do, then that's enough, and then you can't compare it to what other people are doing. Boom!
Oh my gosh! Did you always recognize that you were comparing yourself?
No.
How did you figure out, how did you start recognizing like, I'm comparing myself and that's not okay?
I think it started out with I've never had a great like perspective of myself. Like I've never had a great like confidence in my identity. And I think as I grew as a Christian, I just started to realize like some things I'm just insecure about in myself, and then some things I'm insecure because I'm comparing that part of myself to somebody else. So I think it's like when somebody else is your standard that you're looking at and you don't measure up to them, that's when it's comparison.
What are some things that you do whenever like you, let's say like you compare yourself and you recognize, dang, I just compared myself, like what do you do in those moments?
Well, a lot of times I can tell now that I've like been walking with Jesus for a longer time. Like it doesn't happen as often as it used to. So typically when I start comparing myself, it's when I've had a couple rough days or a couple days of like a few things have added up to me not being in a great place, like with myself, with others, like just not healthy in myself. And then that's usually when comparison like gets me. So in those times I usually try to go away with God and just spend time with Him. Just in general, spend time with Him. That always makes me feel better. But I have a hard time sometimes like thinking that there's anything good in me or like seeing the good in myself. So I'll ask God, like, God, what are some things that you love about me? And I just wait to see what He speaks to me. And then also, like, I try to get really honest with myself. And if you get honest enough with yourself, you're able to say, like, I really do like this thing about me, and just kind of make a list of things you like about yourself. It's okay if you're honest with like, I really don't like this thing about me, but these things I do like this is something I'm good at, this is something unique that God's put in me, this is something that I've grown in a lot. Or maybe even on the list it's like, I've been trying really hard to grow in this area, and I like that about myself. And so that usually helps me reset with God and just be like, okay, this person's great and that's awesome, but this is who you've made me, and this is how I can be confident in myself, and I don't need to compare to them because you've made us very different.
You said you like spend time with Jesus, like you just go spend time with him. Like what are some things that you do whenever you go spend time with him?
I have like a normal quiet time, or like I listen to worship music, I read my Bible, I journal. But in those moments where I'm really struggling with comparing myself or really struggling with my identity, I try to read the Bible, and even verses that you hear all the time, like Psalm 139, it doesn't matter how many times you've heard it, it's truth, and the Bible talks about renewing your mind so much. So in those moments I try to be very intentional about like looking up scriptures that talk about like my identity and who I am, and renewing my mind with that truth.
Yeah, I think even reading them in different versions, Psalm 139, I've like read it a million times, but then reading it in a different version kind of like gives me a deeper revelation, and just like helps me to not just skim through it, like I've heard this before, like I know this.
Okay, this verse in Philippians 4, it has really helped me recently, like in this past year, to like when I'm comparing myself, I go here, and like this is one of those verses I use to renew my mind. Or like even a prevention for comparison, like stopping those patterns before they happen. But it's right after it talks about like not being anxious for anything but pray about everything, and then God's peace will come from that. This is right after it. It's Philippians 4 verse 8. It says, "Finally, brethren, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is of good repute, if there is any excellence, and if anything worthy of praise, dwell on these things. The things you have learned and received and heard and seen in me, practice these things, and the God of peace will be with you." And the reason that that verse really speaks to me is because all of those things that are good, right, pure, all those things, that's the way God wants me to think about myself. And that's also the way he wants me to think about other people. Because when I'm comparing myself to other people, I'm not actually thinking of them in that way. I'm thinking of how they're better than me, or, you know, like, do I measure up to them or not? And how can I, like, hit that mark, you know? I'm not thinking all these lovely things about them, and I'm definitely not thinking it about myself. And in that, it even talks about, like, doing the things, like learning. You're still learning, you're still growing, but while you're doing that, you're thinking in this way. This is the way that your thoughts go, and then the God of peace will be with you. Because I think that comparison is just another form of anxiety. Anxiety that you don't measure up, anxiety that someone's better than you, or that you're not good enough. But when you're thinking all those things, like, those are the thoughts that God has towards you. So if you're thinking his thoughts, he's with you. The God of peace is with you.
Did you ever like have like a mentor or anybody that like helped you, like that you talked things through or anything? Did that help you, or was that just something that you like internally processed with the Lord?
No, I don't think I had anybody.
I'm just trying to think, like, if that's something.
Did you ever have a mentor or somebody to help you process through?
I feel like for me, like, I didn't really recognize that I was comparing myself until somebody called it out in me. It was like, you're comparing yourself, and I was like, oh. And then that's whenever like I started recognizing, wow, I really do struggle with like comparing myself. Yeah, it wasn't something that I like, if someone would have been like, oh, like, if you struggle with comparison, blah, 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 I was like, I don't struggle with that. Until someone called it out in a situation, and then like I kept seeing like how I would talk about myself and how I would like talk about different things, and I was like, wow, like that's comparison.
Yeah.
So I don't think I like really processed it with anybody. I think just recognizing the moments. I think I did have like accountability with like people that knew that I struggled with it and would call it out. There was something that somebody said. They said like having like strings like going to each other and like measuring like who's like higher and like whatever. But then she's like, no, like God's asking us to have our string connected to him and like to like measure up to him and what he's asking of us and what he's called us to be. And ever since then, like I think about that sometimes. I'm like, okay, where's my string at? Like, am I connected to somebody that's not God? Like now, like comparing myself and like trying to figure out where I need to grow based on other people rather than what God's asking of me. So
that's really good. It's hard.
It is.
Yeah, because I still struggle with comparison all the time. I think I'm just better at noticing it now, and now I have like tools to come against it.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is like not just recognizing it, but like being like, okay, what's truth, and like, okay, God, like where do you have me, and what are you calling me to? Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for coming and being in my video. Comment down below if you have anything to say. I love connecting with you guys. Yeah, subscribe, follow me on Instagram, and that's all. Bye.